It is time. PSL rankings after the draft, for the start of the season, season 7. This is everyone's most hyped video for the season. It's up there with the award ceremony. I love doing it. Everyone loves it. Everyone's so excited for this one. So let's just go. Let's just go. So as always, these rankings are not just how good your team is, because I think that's kind of boring. This is how likely you are to win the championship. So you can have a really, really good team, but if you haven't performed very well in the past, you haven't shown me that you can take your team to like a deep playoff run, you might be ranked a little lower. You got to show me. You got to show me that you can do it. A lot of past results will be taken into account. New coaches. I don't know how good you are. I don't know how good you are. Coach ratings are very much come into play into this. To be honest, they're almost more important than the team ranking. So you gotta show me that you're good, because I don't know how good you are. You're gonna be ranked as a below average coach until you show me that you can hang with the best. So you gotta prove it. So you might be ranked a little lower than you think you might be. It's not because your team's bad. It's not because I'm calling you bad. It's just I don't know how good you are yet. You have to show me. So let's just get straight into it. So, well, one more thing. Think of these rankings like you open your sports betting app. I say it all the time. The guy in Las Vegas, he's making these rankings. He's putting out the odds. I'm just delivering it to you. These aren't my rankings. I'm just delivering it to you. Don't shoot the messenger. Look, I'm just delivering it to you. So we have two teams in the D tier. The first two are New England Patriots and the Tennessee Sea Titans. So Sea Titans. The reason that this team's in the D tier, Z, new coach, don't know how good he is, and he's been thrown into the fire. When he took over, this team had a lot of Pokemon that was stolen. Then he doubled down on that, and he kind of stole everything, because they have 9 out of 11 Pokemon have been stolen or restolen. That's like 9 times 3, whatever that is. I'm not good at maths. Whatever that number is, that's the amount of points that could have been spent on this team, to just draft other Pokemon, draft better Pokemon. So I love this team, by the way. I love the fact that he actually stole everything, because that's just fun as fuck. This is fun as fuck, and I want Tennessee to win the championship. It is one of my teams that I want to win more than any others. I'm a huge, gigantic Tennessee fan this season. This is one of my teams. I hope they do good, because I think it's just funny that they stole and restole everything. Like, it's just fun. But he has to show me that these Pokemon are worth being stolen and restolen, because he invested a lot of money into them. New England. I think this might arguably be one of the weakest defenses in the league, and has no hazard removal. So this is basically why this team is down here, and the offense isn't. There's some good offensive pieces there are, but nothing that's like super like crazy. Well, there are some crazy things, but there's not as much as all the other teams. It's around average to below average on the offense. But the reason with the defense, so there's 3 steel types, I think, and 2 ground types. You have, like, I think it's Steelix, the donkey thing, Mudsdale, the Celesteela. None of them get recovery, and a lot of the defensive pieces, they all do the exact same thing, and it's just the one thing, and there's not that many of them. So you got things like Mudsdale, which might have to be specially defensive, because it is also the only Pokemon that I can see on this team being specially defensive. The only Pokemon. And then on the physical side, you just got a lot of Pokemon that do the same things, and because you have a lot of Pokemon that kind of do the same thing, like overlap with each other, like Steelix and Mudsdale, it opens a lot of holes in the team, and it's also a lot of roster spots that could have been something else, and that also brings down the offense, because when you have 2 Pokemon that kind of just do the same thing, you're doing the same thing. You don't have a whole nother thing you can do, which opens up like a whole nother avenue in the game. So that is Tier D. Tier C, we have Baltimore, LA, Minnesota, Detroit, Dallas, Denver, Buffalo, Seattle, and Kansas City. Let's start with Baltimore. So Baltimore, this team, a lot better team for Mew this year. A lot better team for Mew. Last year, Mew looked really rough on this roster, and I think it almost got Bust of the Year candidate, I believe. But I said Mew's really rough because it is like one of the only defensive Pokemon, and it's kind of locked into like a lot of roles. This team overall might not be the best, and I don't really love it. However, it does allow Mew to do everything, and Mew is the key to this team. If he can show me that he can like give a redemption season to Mew and pop off, this is how this team will grow like up the rankings and possibly even win a championship. But so this is going to ruin the video for a little bit, but I need to just have a look at this team to go over my notes. So the defense on this team, there's a lot of bulky options. However, there's still a lot of types that can kind of just push and like break through this defense. A lot of shared weaknesses in the defensive core. And the offense is still decent. I do still like this team. But someone had to be ranked here. LA. So this team has historically been probably one of the lesser performing teams. I do believe this is probably, but directly after the draft, I would have said this is probably the best LA team that has ever been drafted. There were a few trades that were made that I think hurt the team quite a little bit. But overall, I still think it's decent. I still think it's up there for one of the best LA teams. I think last season was probably better because of Marshadow. I think post-draft this was better, but the Duraludon trade really helped. It hurt. It really hurt. Having all the defensive reliability being put on Stack Attacker now instead of Duraludon, which freed up Stack Attacker to like do some trick room, some setup kind of stuff, and just sweep teams. Now Stack Attacker is really being forced to be more defensive and just kind of take hits and then get healed up by the Wish, which I believe it has Wish on this team. And Duraludon would have been so perfect for that. So that does hurt, but still not an awful team. Minnesota. So Minnesota, let me just have a quick look at my notes. I believe this team, I gave it a really, really low defensive ranking. Yeah, I ranked the defense a 3 out of 10, but the offense is really, really solid. I really, really like the offense. I would say maybe top 10 offense towards around like the 10 to 8 kind of mark. But the defense is going to struggle a little bit. I think the hazards are going to struggle a little bit, and then I need to see Prince pop off. Prince just has to prove himself. But this offense, I gave an 8 out of 10. So it can really carry this team, and if he can utilize the offense well, and do the damage before the opponent does the damage to him, he'll do okay. Detroit. I'm gonna say it, Hayden. You've drafted the best team you've ever had before. This is the best Detroit team you've ever drafted. It's so good. It's so good. But now this is it. This is your chance right now. This is your chance. You gotta grab your team by the balls and you gotta drag it to playoffs. You hear me? Grab that pitch by the balls and you drag it to playoffs. Like you do not miss playoffs this season. You do not miss playoffs this season. This is your best opportunity that you have ever had. You're in a division where the best team is ranked mid B. You can do this. You can do this. You can make playoffs this season. Dallas. So this was a team that I actually forgot to rank, and then I had a quick look at it just before I did this video. Oh no, this is gonna mess up the overlay, but that's fine. So JJ, former coach of the Tennessee Sea Titans, now the coach of the Dallas Baltoys. This team, I think the defense is solid. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's okay. There are quite a few typings that can just break through it though. And the offense, I think, it's solid. It's not terrible, but I think it's missing one more, maybe one or two, just like really other strong pieces. There's Infernape and Nemeris and Mousehold, who is like legit almost won a low tier MVP season 1. Just maybe it was season 2. Just missed out to either Armourouge or Absol one of the seasons, but one more consistent piece, and then just prove yourself. Just come out, just get some wins, and you'll go on the tier list. Denver, I think it's top 3, easy top 3 team for me. Like for fun wise, just I love this team so much. So many cool Pokemon on it. Everything seems fun. I really, really, really want Denver to go 5-0 again, make the championship, or just at least a deep playoff run. However, the defense is really, 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 really bad. There's essentially no defense almost. The only defensive Pokemon on this team is Appletun. So with Appleton, I think, genuinely, not even joking, probably top three defensive Terra Pokemon in the entire league. It is so good. It is amazing. The problem is it's really the only defensive Pokemon in there. You have other stuff like Trigolge who can take hits special defensively, and there's some Pokemon that you can bring defensively that will only really work in the right matchup. But the problem with this team is Appleton is so good defensively because it can Terra. It can get rid of the Grass Dragon, the double ice weakness it can Terra. However, if you look at the weakness chart, there are maybe, I'm going to say even up to 8 typings that Appleton is the only switch into. Then once it Terras, there are no switch-ins to these typings. And you have the best Terra in Appleton that wants to Terra, it needs to Terra, but once it does Terra, it's going to hurt the team maybe even more than it helps, which is kind of weird to say. However, the offense, I graded as top 10. Top 10 offense. You have stuff like Lucario and a bunch of other things that can just dominate. We have Charizard, who was one of the GOATs of Season 1. So hopefully he can reclaim Charizard's crown, but really good team. I like it. It's really fun. Love it. I hope it does well. Buffalo. So this is my favorite draft in the league. I think it's fucking awesome that this dude just came out and he redrafted the defensive juggernaut that Buffalo has always been. He brought back the reputation. He held it up as the best defensive team in the league. But the problem I had when I was looking at this team, I was kind of shocked. When I was going in to make my notes in this team, I was like, okay, this team's going to be a 10 out of 10 defense and the offense is going to be 0 out of 10. And that's just how it's going to be. I was kind of surprised that this team is so defensive, but the defense isn't that good. It's kind of, I don't think it's the best defensive team in the league. I think there's a few defenses that are better than this team. There is a lot of weaknesses in this defense. However, the team is so bulky that he has a lot of Pokemon that can just take neutral hits. So it's not just that there's holes in the defense, you also have to have a Pokemon that is strong enough to beat the Pokemon that can take neutral hits within those weaknesses. So that can be rough. And I thought the offense was actually better than I thought it was going to be. But the problem is it's still a little low. There's no immediate power in the offense. A lot of the offense is going to come from setting up. But this team is still scary, and if you don't prep for it well, it's going to beat you. I think this team is going to actually beat a lot of teams that the coach is better than the opposing coach. And I don't know how good this coach is. Like, this team could go 5-0 if they, depending on who they play. However, when it comes to winning a championship, I think the best coaches are going to be able to take advantage of the passiveness of the offense and the weaknesses on the defense. Still, even because this is twice that Buffalo has drafted, like, on paper, like the most godly defensive team. But then when you really look into it, there are holes that you can find. Now, this is like almost the exact opposite. This is the exact opposite with Seattle. They have no defense at all. Like, the defense just does not exist. You can sneeze on a lot of things and they'll die. You have stuff like Registeel and the Blade. Them paired together, I don't really like that much. They kind of just do the same thing. And then you have stuff like Donphan, who can obviously come defensive at times. You have no recovery on really anything. This team's going to get worn down really, really fast. But this team, historically, has been the opposite of Buffalo and has always been the hyper-offensive team. So I'm pretty sure he's aware of that. He's probably aware that the defense isn't good, and he's probably, if he knows that, it probably was his intention to never really draft defense. But the offense is good. Like, the offense is really, really, really good. But I had to put it in the same category as Buffalo. So I think this team is going to beat a lot of teams that are where the coaching is average, like at level or worse. Like, this team could go 5-0, but when it comes to winning the championship, I really think that a lot of teams are going to be able to take advantage of the fact that this team just has no real defense, and it's going to be hard to win a championship. Next is Bucks. Charizards. I really, really, really like this team, and they made some really, really good moves in the draft too. Like, their first 3 picks were Goldango, Laddie, and Koko. That's insane. Like, how do you get Tapu Koko in the 3rd round and Laddie in the 2nd round, which was a top 10 Pokemon available in the draft? So that was insane. But the defense, I was looking at it, and he was in chat, and the defense was rough. There's it's not a complete defensive core. Laddie is the best offensive Pokemon, but it could also be the best defensive Pokemon. Goldango is one of the best offensive Pokemon as well, but it's also the best defensive Pokemon. So Goldango is really forced like a defensive role in this team. But and it really all comes down to Laddie and it being able to keep up some of the other defensive options they have with like Wish and stuff like Volcanion that doesn't get recovery. And the other thing is that I think every single member of their main trio in the defensive core, if you want to put Laddie and Goldango in there, because when you look at a team, they are the main defensive options. They're all weak to Ghost with Palossand, so it was rough, but I think it comes down to how he utilizes Tyranitar and Volcanion, because they are the third and fourth defensive options that can come in, take some of the hits that the main trio can't. But then he's going to have to really keep them alive with like Wish with Laddie, so it's going to require a lot of good positioning for this team to really make a championship run. Tier B. We'll just reel half of it for now. So at the bottom of Tier B, this is interesting. So we have Beedrills, New York, and Jolteons. So let's do the defending champs. This team, I believe, is probably around like, if I had to rank teams just on their own, maybe like a low C tier team. But this is probably, I think he's proven to be a top 8 coach. I'm going to put him in top 8. Maybe even top 5. We'll see how he goes this season. But I didn't really love the team too much here. I don't love the defense. There is Pecharunt, who is a really strong defensive Pokemon. And then you have stuff like Great Tusk, who is honestly maybe an okay third option, because you really want your big second defensive option to have recovery and then have like maybe something like Wish to kind of help keep Great Tusk alive. And then you have Tentacruel, and I don't like Tentacruel and Great Tusk together because there's just two Pokemon that can get chipped down very easily. We all know Great Tusk is like awesome, but when you're relying on that to be like the number 2 piece of your like defensive core, it's rough. It's gonna struggle a little bit. And then the offense I wasn't too overly scared of anyway, or either, because again, like you got Great Tusk, who's maybe the best offensive option, but it's also one of the best defensive options. There's going to be so much pressure on it. I think this team really would have helped to have like another defensive Pokemon that's just better than Great Tusk is defensively, and another offensive Pokemon that's as good as Great Tusk. Really like take some pressure. Like, there's so much pressure on that thing. But how does this win a championship? This team will win a championship again if Will shows me that he is as good as he has been in the last 2 seasons, and Great Tusk does not crumble under the pressure. And if Great Tusk has an MVP season and carries this team, then this team will win a championship again. Beedrills. This team, the only coach to win 2 championships. So this is why I think it's interesting that these two are like kind of like next to each other at the bottom of B, because these two are really good coaches. I don't love the defense too much on this team, but the offense is really strong. I believe it has Menifee and Gliscor. Those are huge pieces. They are huge pieces. Hopefully he can put the rest of the team together, make a run. But if those two Pokemon absolutely dominate and tear up this league, that's how he's going to win a championship. Because I know how good they are. Menifee and Gliscor are some of the most 2 drafted Pokemon of all time. I know how good they are, but hopefully he can put it all together. Jacksonville. So with Jacksonville, this is kind of where the Tier B, bottom of Tier B really starts. I thought maybe New York and Philadelphia were probably like C tier teams, but the coaching was really bringing them up. But Jolteon, I really think this is a solid team. But the last 2 seasons, Swordfish hasn't performed very well. He's too busy playing tonsil hockey with his girlfriend instead of prepping for his battles. So he's gonna have to pull it together. Show me that he can do it, because this team's good. You're Ursaluna. Defensively, I really like Togetic and Jellicent together. They work very well. There's no dominant third piece to the core, which is like a little bit disappointing, but you still have like a lot of other bulky stuff like Duraludon that can switch in and take hits that just don't have that much longevity. But overall, I think this team is good. The offense is good too with Dragonite and Ursaluna. It's pretty scary. A lot of good wall breakers. Hopefully he can clean up with Dragonite and Lycanroc, and yeah, I think this team can do well. He's just got to stop making out with his girlfriend before the battles. The rest would be Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Arizona, Chicago, Green Bay, LA Wild Chargers, Washington, New Orleans, New York Aqua Jets, Atlanta, and then Indianapolis. So the Cincinnati team. This is a team that you could argue that this team might be a little bit too low, but when I looked at it on paper, I really liked the defensive core. I really liked it. But then when I went through how it goes against defending certain typings, there were a few holes in there. But he has Glastrier, former low tier MVP. He has a lot of just really good defensive options with Cresselia. Cresselia is going to really like help with the fact that there are some typings that can break through because you can just switch into anything. But I do love Cresselia on this team. Overall, I think it's solid. I think the offense is pretty good too with Yoshifu. Yoshifu is going to absolutely tear up everyone. And then we have Katana, I think, as well. But how this team wins a championship, there's one Pokemon on that roster. There's one Pokemon that if you saw the stream for the PSL talk show, it was selected as an MVP candidate, Tyrantrum. If Tyrantrum pops off and gets an MVP caliber season, this is how this team wins a championship. It's all going to be on him though, because as good as Yoshifu, Rapid Strike, and Katana are, there needs to be a third dominant option. Dragon Dance, Tyrantrum, Choice Band, Tyrantrum. It's going to dominate, hopefully. Pittsburgh. I don't know what to do with this team. They're 0-5. They're 5-0. I don't know. They're so up and down. However, this is the best team you've drafted. This is the best team that Ninja has ever drafted. I think this is really good. Finally drafted defense. The son of a bitch finally drafted defense. I really like this team. I think there was one typing that absolutely destroyed you, and I think it was Rock. And I think you're going to have to utilize Conkeldurr defensively and keep it alive with Vaporeon to kind of help with that stuff. But I think Conkeldurr's going to have an MVP season. Like, Conkeldurr, if it can pull off everything it does offensively while still being defensive in some games, then yeah, this team will do well. Arizona. And this is where I'll throw Pittsburgh into the mix too, and with Carolina, even Georgia. This is where the competition gets really tough, and you could rearrange these Pokemon in any order you want. But this is the order I gave it, but you could really argue Arizona to be like maybe 3 or here. It would make sense. The problem, or the flaw I see in this team is the defense. There's so much pressure on Licky to keep everything alive and healthy that I don't know if it's going to fall through or not. But if you can manage that, if you keep everything alive, the offense is good, low kicks is awesome, I know you know how to use it. So if Licky can keep everything alive, then this team will do very well. Chicago. Damn, this team had so much potential to be a A+ tier team. It was so close, at least A. The defensive core with Slowbro, could be Slowking, one of them, and Knucklestack. And then there's no real good third option. Like, they are so good together. If they just had a third option to pair with that, something that can take the grass hits, and some stuff like that, it would have been so good. It would have been so amazing. There's stuff like, I think he has Cacturne and Decidueye. They can take grass hits, but they're not Pokemon that you want to be taking hits all the time. Defensive Decidueye can be a thing, but it's not a defensive Pokemon that you can rely on enough to be like the third piece of your defensive core. So it really needed like a better grass switch in. And on the offense, there's 2 really good offensive duo. Like, their offensive duo is insane. It's like Victini and Melmetal. That's scary as fuck to deal with. That's scary as hell. But then I think it really like drops off a little bit after that. There's some things they can use. I think they have Flygon on the team. I think Flygon's a very good dragon. That's a very good win condition. But it's gonna have to step up and really pop off and like show that it's dominant. And if they can get like somehow find a defensive Pokemon to step up and get Flygon to step up offensively, that's how this team wins the championship. And this is a team I really want to talk about, Green Bay. So Green Bay made a lot of trades this season, and it just so happened to be after Donkey's stream, where a lot of people were saying this is not a boy team. This team isn't that good. Gliscor and Clodsire should not be paired together. Clodsire shouldn't really be on the team. and they ranked it like a B tier team. I was losing my mind because I thought this was unquestionably, undoubtedly the best team in the league, and it wasn't even. It was better than mine. Everyone's saying that mine was the best. This was the best team in the league. It wasn't really that close. I don't know if I'll put it in S tier, but it would definitely be very, very high A. Very, very high A. The best hazards I've ever seen in this league. Ever. I rank the teams every single season. The hazard setting in this team and the hazard removal in this team, the best I've ever seen. It got a 9.5 out of 10. Best I've ever seen. It was amazing. Gliscor paired with Clodsire. That's so good. That is so good. And then they had Suicune as well. Suicune and Milotic. Milotic's the best pairing to have Gliscor. Vaporeon and Suicune are the second best. Then you have Clodsire in there, who also resists water because of the water absorb. It's immune. It does. Gliscor's not weak to ground. And having Clodsire come in and be defensive opens the door for Gliscor to be offensive. And Gliscor is the top 10 offensive Pokemon. It is. I'm doing this thing and I go through the type chart and I'm just like, oh, here's a defensive core. Oh, okay. Well, every single flying weakness he has is weak to ground. Every single ground weakness he has is weak to flying. It comes up on every single team over and over and over again. Gliscor is amazing offensively. It's definitely a top 10 offensive Pokemon. It always will be just because his typing is so good. And then he traded it away. And yeah, I graded his hazard setting and the hazards overall removal included 9.5 out of 10. It dropped down to like a 3.5. His defense dropped down a lot as well. But one thing I didn't actually know is that Ursaluna gets Moonlight. And I found that out after, which makes his defense a drop from I think I gave it like an 8 to a 4.5. Knowing that probably buffs it up a little bit. And I don't think the defense is actually that bad now. It could be better, but it's not too bad. And he also traded away Clodsire for Bronzong, which I thought was really, really rough as well. Because we know Bronzong just won the MVP, but I've never seen Bronzong ever do anything in my life besides last season where it won the MVP. So I don't like it paired with Suicune because Suicune doesn't get reliable recovery, neither does Bronzong. So he's going to have to Ducky's gonna have to teach him the ways to use Bronzong, but a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Gliscor, it's not a boy mod." I don't see Bronzong being one, so there we go. Use Bronzong. Bronzong is the key. If you can pop off with it, then I'll eat my words. But I don't like Bronzong at all. But the team is still middle of the pack because the coach is good. He's a top 10 coach, maybe top 8, around there, but he's really good. Wild Chargers, LA. So Acid is the pick that I believe I picked him to make the championship this season. Just because it was just purely based off a gut feeling. I just feel like this team, it's their time. I just think he's gonna make it. I just have a feeling. The stars are all going to align. Whether he wins by just being better or having the better team, or he wins by hacks or luck, or the opponent dies, something like that. I think he's probably I think he's gonna get the championship this season. I just have a feeling. And I also picked Blastoise for MVP in the PSL talk show because I think Dondozo is gonna really open things up for Alauta, Terra, or Shell Smash in any given week. Kind of just pop off Washington. So I do really, really, really like this team. I think this team's really, really strong. The coach just got to show me. I know he's determined to win. He's not happy with his performances these first 2 seasons. He's got to redeem himself, and I know he wants to, and I think he can do it. New Orleans. So this is a very strong team. This is probably an A tier team. I just don't know how good the coach is. And same for Aqua Jet. So I'm going to pair these two together. Good defense, good offense, really, really strong. Coach is going to show me how good they are because this team could very easily be A. And if the coaches turn out to be amazing, then they would probably be A+. Really good teams. Atlanta. So now just that we made those trades, Atlanta is the best hazard setting team in the league. it's the best hazard setting team in the league. But guess what? It's the worst hazard removal team in the league because it has none. None. Whatsoever. None. But it's the best hazard setting team in the league. So what do? You set up all the hazards, you make them defog. It kind of sucks if they have rapid spinners, because then, you set up on them, they set up on you, but they spin away and you're left with all the stuff on your team. The defense on this team I really, really liked. I really, really liked. The second I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be one of the best defensive teams in the league. When I looked at the type thing, there were a few holes in it though. But overall, I still think it's one of the best defensive teams in the league, best calls in the league. Offensively, I really like it as well. I think there are a few holes in the offense, a few holes in the defense, but overall, I think this is solid. It's a really good team. I could not rank it any higher because there is not a single hazard remover on the team there. So this is kind of like the max I can ever put a team that has no hazard removal at all on a tier list. Indianapolis. Okay, so this team, Paddy, really good. Like he's improved so much, and he's probably maybe the best coach outside of maybe Will and Connor in this tier. I think he actually maybe he's in there with Just Boy. Him and Just Boy, in my opinion, are even. But he's right up there. He's performed so well. And his season's all going to come down to Weezing. If he can terror Weezing very well, that's going to be the key, because his defensive core with Umbreon and Gligar is amazing. And if you can use Weezing very well, let it perform well enough to be the third piece of the defensive core, that's going to be key, because I do like the offense, I do like the defense. He's got to bring it all together. So A tier. The A tier teams are Las Vegas, Carolina, Tampa Bay, Houston, and San Francisco. There are a few teams here that are in A because of the coach, and there's a few that are in A because of the team. There are some that are just all round good, but not amazing. So let's start with Las Vegas. So Las Vegas are here because of the coach. The offense it's incredible. I think it is up there with one of the best offenses in the league, maybe the best. But it also has no defense. The defense is so bad. When I was ranking this team, I gave the defense, I think, even a 1 out of 10. Then chat was like, hey, Arboliver's kind of like amazing defensively, especially with Terra. And then you're like, you're right, I'll respect Arboliver. And then we've gone through the type chart. It's like, okay, this is suffers the same problem as Denver. Arboliver is the switch into so many things, and is the only resistance to so many things. Once it terrors, it loses those resistances, and all of a sudden, this team is just wide open to like 5 different typings. Just absolutely destroy it. So that's the one thing. There is Terrapagos who can switch in and take every single hit, but doesn't have longevity. And if you're just switching it in to take a hit defensively, I don't think that's how you want to use it. No, that's not how he uses it. I know he likes to save it for the right moment, bring it out, and then kind of set up with it and try and sweep. He doesn't, from what I know, he doesn't like to just waste the ability to just switch into a hit, because it's the only defensive option on the team that can take the hit. So we'll see. But the reason I put him in A, because one, the offense is so scary, and he is top 5 coach. I put him around maybe like 4 or 5, I think, maybe 3. I think he's really, really, really good. And it's the coaching that's pushing him up to A tier, I think. I think a lot of teams are going to be able to take advantage of the fact that he has really poor defenses. But then a part of me is like, maybe he is genuinely good enough to kind of outplay the opponent anyway. So I'm gonna put bottom A. Carolina is my opinion, one of the best teams in the league overall. Probably the second best, maybe third best team if we're just ranking team and taking coaching out of it. I think this team's really, really good. I love the defense. I love the offense. I think this is the Palafin Crawdon team. Palafin Crawdon was one of my other picks for MVP. I think Crawdon's going to do really, really, really well. I kind of like the pairing with Palafin because one of them's going to break holes for the other, and then the other one's just going to sweep, whether it's bulk up Palafin or like Sword Stance Crawdon. It's so hard to get two Pokemon to check both of them, let alone having one. And usually when you have one, it's not going to be strong enough to take care of the other. So I think it's just a very, very, very scary combination. But performance-wise, coaching, he's performing the worst in the tier so far. So there's a lot of pressure on him, but I think his team's that good that I'm putting it in a Tampa Bay. This is one of the teams where when I was giving the grades out, it was such like 7 out of 10s almost across the board, which is off the top of my head without looking at it. There's only one other team that had very high numbers across the entire board, and that's one of the teams in A+. So I really like this team. It's just no glaring holes in it. It's just solid all the way. If he has some secret little tech, some secret stuff that I'm just not seeing that turns all this average stuff into insane stuff, then that's how he wins the championship. I can easily see this team winning a championship. Houston. So with Houston, I think this is probably the worst team that Houston's had in their span of the PSL. I think the defense is a little rough. This is the first time, except for the time where he adopted a team that wasn't really his, where the defense has been like very questionable. Like there's a lot of holes in it, but the offense is obviously good with Dragapult and Spectre. Second best coach in the league. He's in the top 2 for me. He's really, really good. He's here because the team is just, he is amazing. I think this is probably high B tier team. The offense is so strong. The offense is so strong. The defense worries me though. The final team in A tier team is Glacier with the San Francisco TM49ers. Very, very close to being one of another all-rounded team. I think the offense might be slightly better than Tampa Bay's, but I think the defense is a little worse. I think the coaching might be a little better. Just based off past performance, I think the 49ers had the best record in the regular season last year. This team's very, very scary. They're very, very good. It's just solid all-round team. Solid all-round, not too many weaknesses. I think if anyone's going to be able to beat this team, it's going to be because the defense has a couple of holes in it. But if he can utilize it well and like mitigate them with like good prep and stuff, he'll be fine. The A tier teams, I have Cleveland and Miami. So Cleveland, I really, really, really like this team. I really, really like this team, and it's the most interesting and the most fun team on this tier list. Because look at this roster here. They have Bellibolt and Armarouge, some of the best Pokemon in PSL history. Armarouge probably being number 1, maybe only to King Gambit. But Armarouge is right up there. It's been dominant. And then he has some of the worst Pokemon in PSL history. We have Kleavor, who has been absolutely throwing games left, right, and center since the PSL began. And then he had Starmie, which has barely been drafted, so we gave it had a really bad season, and then we gave it the scenario thing where it could terra ground. Starmie would terra ground. Pretty good. Seems okay. Had one of the worst seasons, was ranked like 300th. So Starmie has been an absolute bust so far. So was Kleavor. But we'll see how it goes. The defense on this team, I really like Ordino, one of the best Terra defensive Pokemons again. It's really, really good. The defense doesn't look as good on paper because I noticed that with a lot of Pokemon that once they have a defensive Pokemon that is a normal type that can Terra, it looks bad when you go through the types, resistances and stuff, because normal resists nothing. But once you Terra it into something and you just pick the best Terra type for whatever you're trying to do, it will turn out to be a lot better. But Bellibolt and Ordino probably they're up there for the best, like low tier defensive duo. And then Vileplume as well. The Terra Vileplume with the effect spore is going to be really cool. You have Goodra who can be healed up by the Wish on Ordino. So Goodra can pop off defensively. Landorus can do very well defensively because it has Wish on the team. This is just a solid team. It's just a very solid team, and I kind of like Galarian Moltres as well. And then the other team in S tier I had Miami. So this is just one of the very good all-round teams. Their offense is just really good. There's like pretty much everything could be offensive and like be very scary except for Galarian Corsola, who literally just switches into everything. The defense is really good. There's like 6-7 like strong defensive options. Then you have stuff like Corsola or Corsola, whatever the pre-evolution one is, that can literally just switch into every single hit. So it really frees up stuff like Torterra and Polion and Arcanine and Togekiss to be offensive whenever they want to. There's gonna be a lot of cheesy wins with Choice Scarf, Togekiss, just flinching people to death. Just all round solid team. Yeah, so these are the rankings for the preseason or the post-draft. Pre-season. I guess we call it preseason. Do we call it preseason? I guess we do. The preseason rankings for the teams. Let me know what you think. Let me know what I got wrong. Let me know what you think I'm crazy on, or like if I'm smoking some shit. Just let me know. I want to know. The big difference that I had from Donkey and his tier list, I think, was Minnesota. I think he had Minnesota very high, and I had it really low, and I can't remember anything else. But that's gonna be it. I'm gonna end the video because the shorter the video is, the quicker it is to upload, and I'll see you all in the next one.